Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. We've got the Decepticon Megatron on the screen with Justinian Lions as one inspiration and Revocation Protocol selected in the first row of skills. These are the two key features of this build that I'm using for the brand new Premium Tier 7 German battleship Brandenburg. And this ship is nearly unsinkable with this build. It is super tanky and super ferocious. In fact, I think this build is probably the optimum build for this ship. I don't think I'm going to change it to anything else. So if you have Megatron, I highly suggest you use this build on your ship, particularly if you can also use Justinian Lions as an inspiration. Now, a little bit on what Lions and the Revocation Protocol skill both do. This is what I like to call the ultimate fire build for the German battleships. So, if you read the little blurb about Lions' base trait, whenever you use the repair party consumable or the heal on your battleship and Justinian Lions is one of your inspirations, you increase the fire chance by 30% on the high explosive shells for the duration of the heal. So basically, every time I take damage and every time I pop a heal to repair that damage, the fire chance on this battleship's high explosive shells goes up past 30%. And that applies not only to the main guns, but also, crucially, to the secondaries. So basically, anytime I use a heal when I'm in secondary range, this battleship lights a lot of fires. In fact, I think we might actually get a Witherer in this game, due mostly to the fires that our secondaries light. Although we are going to shoot some high explosive from our main guns and get some fires that way. And then Revocation Protocol, the skill in Megatron's first row of skills, synergizes really well with this Justinian Lions inspiration, because the Justinian Lions inspiration makes you very, very offensively capable in terms of starting fires. And Revocation Protocol makes you very, very defensively capable in terms of mitigating fire damage, because Revocation Protocol reduces fire burn times by a significant percentage. And if you use Revocation Protocol along with the damage control mod in the second slot, which I've done, then you can decrease the fire burn time on your battleship from the base 60 seconds to something like 37, 38 seconds. More than 20 seconds cut off. And that means you're saving yourself a lot of hit points if you allow a single fire to burn for the full duration. This, in part, makes this ship very, very tanky, along with its excellent Bismarck-like armor scheme. Now, what is the Brandenburg? Essentially, the Brandenburg is a Bismarck or Tirpitz hull with Odin guns. It's got 12 guns, 305 millimeters, so they're not very big, and they can be pretty inconsistent. Sometimes you'll shoot the armor piercing at a broadside battleship and do about 3,000 damage because none of your shells will hit. Sometimes you'll do 15,000 damage. It's just a toss-up. But the reload is fairly quick on these 12 guns. It's 26 seconds, I believe, and that is quite nice. It really allows you to switch the shell types more often, which you do want to do, because against heavily angled battleship targets, the high explosive is probably going to be a better choice in that it will start fires, and it's probably going to be a better choice at range. Combine that with the secondaries, and these are Bismarck secondaries, except I think they're actually better. They can range out past 11 kilometers with a full secondary build, and I think they have about 100 meters of range better than the Bismarck. If I put a full secondary build with Hipper and Haruna as inspirations on the Bismarck, I can get the secondaries out to like 11.7 kilometers or something like that. But on the Brandenburg, I can get them out to 11.8. And this thing, with this build, I think, the Megatron build with the extra fire chance provided by the Justinian Lions inspiration, I think this is probably the best secondary ship and the best secondary build in the game right now. Also, I think this ship is incredibly tanky with this build, and it is damn near unsinkable. This game is not going to go super well for my team. You can see that our map position is utterly deplorable, with my entire team in the center cap and the enemy spread out on both flanks. They've taken both of the capture circles, so right off the bat we're at a disadvantage. I'm here in the center, and we're going to lose this game. But at the end of it, we're going to have 4 enemy ships near us, all shooting at us, and they are not going to be able to sink us because of how tanky we are. Now, initially on my first couple of games with this ship, I kind of thought it was mediocre. After all, this is, what, the third Tier 7 German battleship we have in the game, following in the footsteps of Tirpitz and Odin, and all the Tier 7 German battleships, Bismarck, Tirpitz, Odin, and now Brandenburg, they're all sort of variations on each other in a way. The Bismarck is a battleship with 8 15-inch guns and long-range secondaries, but no sonar, and no torpedoes. The Tirpitz is a Bismarck-type battleship with 15-inch guns, 6-kilometer torpedoes, no sonar, and not the best secondaries. And then the Odin has smaller guns, it also has torpedoes, and it has sonar, but its secondaries aren't great. The Brandenburg has smaller guns like the Odin, but it's got Bismarck secondaries, and it has Tirpitz torpedoes, but it does not have sonar. So, interesting variations between the 4 Tier 7 German battleships, and I thought that perhaps at first brush, this one was inferior to the rest of them, but now I don't think so. I think this ship is actually quite fun to play, and it is very tanky indeed. So I would recommend, actually, that you pursue this campaign, you get the Admiralty backing, and you pick this ship up, because it is an enjoyable experience, actually, especially with this secondary build. Now, about the survivability and offensive capabilities of this ship, it does enjoy all the same benefits and downside that both the Bismarck and Tirpitz share, in that it has very, very thick armor. The side armor is extremely thick. The deck armor in the middle of the ship is thick enough to shatter most high explosive, and then the bow and the stern are both about 32 millimeters, so quite tanky. Yamato can overmatch them, but hey, you're not always going to see Yamato. You'll probably see it pretty often these days, but not always. And even if you do see it, you can angle the side armor against the Yamato. The superstructure is, of course, gigantic, prone to taking HE penetrations, and fire is certainly the biggest weakness, I would say, of the German battleships. But again, with this Megatron build, we really mitigate any fire damage that gets inflicted on us, and we are much more survivable in that way. Now, the offensive power on these guns, like I said, these are Odin guns, and Odin guns can be extremely good in certain cases. Again, against broadside targets, they can do an absolute crap ton of damage. It's just not always going to be consistent. So, in getting damage on this ship, you're really going to get damage over time, honestly. You're not going to be getting gigantic, huge alpha strikes like you could on other battleships. This is much more like a Scharnhorst or Odin experience, where it's sort of death by 1,000 cuts, rather than death by one big old knockout punch, although again, those knockout punches can be possible. What are we doing in this game, though, after just having taken out the CV? Well, we do need to get some more cap control. The enemy is ahead of us on points, and we are going to enter this alpha cap while our teammate in the battleship pushes up against the Georgia. I wish he had survived for a little bit longer, but he's gone down now, which is probably going to mean that the Georgia is going to shoot at us. The Georgia is doing what I advise you don't do in battleships, because it compromises your maneuverability, and that's sitting bow in, attempting to bow tank and reverse out of trouble. He can reverse all he wants, but he's in our secondary range, which means he's in our fire starting range, and he's angled against us, so we are using high explosive. You can see there we light 2 fires on him between the high explosive shells from the main guns and the secondaries. Our heal is now online, and our secondary consumable is also online. So if we want to pop that heal and the consumable at the same time, we are almost guaranteed to light perma-fires on this Georgia that he can't put out. But we don't even need to do that. We've still got the high explosive chambered, and he's on fire again. That fire is going to be permanent. Unfortunately, we are getting shot at from the other side of the map, and thus we are not going to be able to take this capture circle. We're also the last ship left alive on our team versus 5 enemy ships, and they are all coming for us. Starting with the Georgia and the Tirpitz, who actually has our broadside right now. He's on the other side of the map, and we're in a crossfire between this Georgia and Tirpitz, which has got me a little bit worried. There he is over there. Generally, you don't want to be in a crossfire versus 2 enemy battleships in your battleship. You will probably go down pretty quickly. But this Georgia's health has been whittled away, and he is very close to going down now. We've switched back to the AP, trying to aim at his superstructure, potentially break his turrets. You can see at this kind of range, a lot of our shells are going to hit, and they are, of course, going to be able to penetrate his superstructure. We're also getting into torpedo range, but I don't think we're going to need to use them because, again, we've got another fire burning on him, and we're up to 13 fires already. He goes down to 1 of our fires, and that just leaves the Tirpitz, a cruiser, and 2 enemy destroyers. Now, the Tirpitz is sort of just barely at the edge of our secondary range, so we're going to slow down, and we're going to begin kiting. Again, I've said this before, but battleships, all ships, are much tankier when they're kiting, and the German battleships in particular, the Bismarck, this ship, the Grosse Kurfürst, all of them, they are much tankier when they're kiting, and if the enemy has to push into them, they can have a huge problem. We've got Le Terrible and Tirpitz both pushing into us right now, and the other destroyer is out there shooting at us. Le Terrible obviously wants to get torpedoes on us. I don't think he accounted for just how shredded he would get by our secondaries. And with that hit there on the main guns, we can comfortably allow the secondaries to finish him off. He's certainly going to be torpedoing us, so we are changing our course in order to dodge the torpedoes. You can see that we're taking a lot of high explosive fire from this other destroyer out here, the Friesland. He's got us lit on fire, but the fires don't burn for very long with this build. And we've got our heal going, which means our fire chance has been increased significantly. We're up to 16 fires right now. We've got the high caliber and Confederate medals, and we're on the verge of being able to get a Kraken. The only downside, again, with this ship is that it really doesn't have that punchy alpha power. Again, it's a lot of death by 1,000 cuts, so it may be difficult to take out this Tirpitz and this Friesland, particularly if this Friesland is going to be smoked up. But with the Friesland's guns, he can really only penetrate our armor on our superstructure. Anywhere else he hits, his shells are going to shatter. They may light fires, but these guys are just not going to be able to sink us in the 2 minutes that they have left. And there are torpedoes against the Tirpitz. I had hoped that they would hit, because if they had hit, I would have turned around and I would have pushed into this Friesland, and potentially we actually could have won this game. But there's just not enough time left to take out the Tirpitz, and the enemy is nearly at 1,000 points. So last-ditch attempt on the Friesland here. It's going to come up short, and we are going to lose. But these guys just could not sink us. This ship is so tanky in the right situations and so offensively capable. I mean, we did 190,000 damage in this game using just our main guns and our secondaries. We didn't even hit a single torpedo. So the damage potential on this ship is crazy, and I think it is a really fun experience. I think you should definitely pick it up, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.